And we are joined by Bloomberg's Michael Whitney from the markets desk. He's been following commodities today, and he's here to tell us what is moving and, Michael, what is not. What's going on?
Well, a bit of a mixed day today. Typical summer trading with lighter volumes. A lot of focus today was on the energy complex. We saw after the PPI numbers this morning that crude oil and gasoline rallied a little bit, but then when the S&P and the equities failed, we saw that they trailed off a little bit. Today, all focus was really on the UNG, the U.S. Natural Gas Fund, which is the ETF that mimics the Henry Hub futures contract. There was a rumor today, it was put out by Gas Daily, stating that they thought that the approval by the SEC for 1 billion more shares was going to be forthcoming and or more or less done. Although the traders I spoke to today thought that caution was a better way to play this, in that the last time they applied for 100 million shares, it took 2 months for approval. Needless to say, there was short covering in the natural gas market, thus it rallied today.
Not exactly the economic climate to be making assumptions in, right?
It never is a good time.
A little bit conservative?
Indeed.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Moving on to the industrial metals here, we saw that copper was a very big performer today, up well over 4% today. Barcap had a report out today citing a Chinese arbitrage play, which means that Chinese internal prices were higher than the import prices. Therefore, China has been importing copper, which was good for demand. And they also cite a tighter scrap market.
What's going on in soft commodities today? We see cocoa moving higher.
Well, today the story was cocoa, albeit not a huge story. Sugar was a little bit higher today, but cocoa really was a performer today. What we saw in cocoa was rains in the Ivory Coast, which produces 40% of the world's cocoa. Right now, we're in what they call the mid-crop period in the Ivory Coast, which accounts for about 30% of the total cocoa crop in the Ivory Coast. There have been persistent rains, and when it rains too much, the cocoa trees don't like it, and they develop this fungus called black pod. There was a little bit of a risk here, and some of the traders were scared that there might be a little bit lower crop coming out of the Ivory Coast.
How's the threat? The
threat right now is hard to count right now. They're looking at pod counts as we speak, but right now there's no damage. But as traders often do, they look forward, they buy the rumor, and then they sell the news.
Michael Whitney following commodities today. Michael, thanks.